My fiancée ghosted me after her husband exposed everything at my engagement party. She froze when he walked in. He introduced himself like he was the guest of honor. Her husband, he said. Hi, I'm Jake, 32, and last month my life blew up when I found out the woman I was going to propose to was already married. To my boss. At our engagement party. Let me back up. So here's how it started. I'd been dating Kelsey for a little over 2 years. She was smart, gorgeous, funny in a way that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. She worked in marketing. I worked in IT at a mid-sized consulting firm downtown, same building, different floors, different lunch breaks. We met in the elevator. One of those cliché meet-cuties where she dropped her planner, I picked it up, and we both laughed at how old school it was to still use paper. First date was Thai food and trivia night. She wiped the floor with me on 2000s rom-coms. I thought, this might actually be something. We moved in together 6 months later. Got a rescue dog. Made Pinterest boards of vacation spots. Talked about kids like they were just a few more paychecks away. So when I bought the ring, I wasn't nervous. The plan was simple. Kelsey thought we were having a promotion party, for me, because I'd just gotten bumped up to lead engineer, and she'd accidentally told a few friends. What she didn't know was that I'd coordinated the whole thing. Her favorite rooftop bar, string lights, a private little section with champagne on ice, and a playlist she didn't even realize was all our songs. My brother Sam was filming. My best friend Mike brought the ring box disguised as a cigar case. Everything was perfect. Until it wasn't. Because 10 minutes before I got down on one knee, Kelsey's face did this thing, this flicker I caught out of the corner of my eye. She was across the room talking to a tall guy in a navy suit. Sharp-looking. Real polished. Hair too perfect, smile too smooth. And she looked terrified. Like deer in the headlights, frozen. I started to walk toward them, and she stepped in front of the guy real fast, like she was blocking him from me. Jake, hey, this is, she said, stammering like I'd caught her cheating on a pop quiz. But he didn't stammer. He looked me dead in the eye, held out a hand, and said, Michael Levinson. Kelsey's husband. And I swear to you, I laughed. I actually laughed because I thought it was some kind of joke. A really messed up, maybe drunk guy crashed our party kind of joke. But Kelsey didn't laugh. Her hands started shaking. And everyone around us froze like someone had hit pause on the whole damn world. Tell me he's joking, I said. And she said nothing. Just let her hand drop from his chest like it had been there 1,000 times before. That was the moment I knew my night wasn't going to end with a proposal. It was going to end with a secret 2 years in the making, unraveling in front of a crowd. I didn't even feel the glass in my hand until it hit the ground. Champagne. All over my shoes. All over the perfectly laid out rug I rented for the proposal setup. All over the night that was supposed to be mine. And Kelsey, my Kelsey, just stood there. She didn't chase me. She didn't explain. She didn't even try to deny it. It was Michael Levinson who did the talking. Because of course it was. He stepped a little closer and said, You didn't know. Damn. I told her this would happen. Told her this would happen. Like this was a calendar event. Like my life coming apart in front of 40 people was just a pit stop on the way to his Uber ride home. Jake, I wanted to tell you, Kelsey finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. I was going to tell you tonight. After. After what? I snapped. After I proposed to my girlfriend and found out I was actually popping the question to someone else's wife? A few people gasped. I think I heard my mother whisper something like, Dear God. Sam had lowered the camera, but it was still recording, red light blinking like a heartbeat. No one moved to stop it. Technically, Michael said, and I swear to you this man had the nerve to smirk. They'd been separated almost a year. I turned on him. Technically, I said, You're about 2 seconds from me forgetting I'm in a button-down and not prison orange. Sam moved then. My brother's not big, but he's scrappy. He stepped in between us like he was anticipating the kind of brawl that ends with someone bleeding onto a charcuterie board. Don't, he muttered. And I didn't. I just stared at Kelsey. Not at her body. Not at her dress. At her face. And what I saw in her face wasn't guilt. It was relief. I knew it would come out eventually, she said. I was just waiting for the right moment. The right moment? I barked. The right moment was 2 years ago, Kelsey. Somewhere between pass the soy sauce and let's move in together. Before we continue, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It means a lot for me. Thanks. She started to cry then. The kind of tears that get sympathy from strangers and pity from the people who know better. And suddenly, I felt it again. That flicker. That moment where your brain goes from heartbreak to audit. Where your body stops reacting and your mind starts counting. 2 years. 2 birthdays. 1 shared dog. A joint checking account. Her name on my benefits. My name on the lease. And none of it was real. Because the whole time, I wasn't her next chapter. I was her exit plan. Michael, for his part, just shook his head and said, "Told you it would catch up to you." I looked at him. Really looked. "Wait," I said slowly. "You knew about me?" He blinked. "Of course. I've seen pictures. I've been paying half your rent." That's when I snapped. Not with fists. Not with yelling. With laughter. Loud, cracked open, borderline maniacal laughter that made the whole room uncomfortable. I doubled over. I wiped my eyes. I clapped. "You paid my rent?" "Well, her rent," he said. I straightened up, voice calm now. "So let me get this straight. Kelsey's been playing house with me while staying legally married to you, and you've been paying to keep us comfortable?" Michael nodded slowly. "God, that's rich," I said. "This whole time I thought I was dating a marketing manager. Turns out I've been part of a subsidized emotional side hustle." Kelsey flinched. "Jake," she whispered. "Please." "I never meant." "No," I said, cutting her off. "You don't get to never meant. You meant. Every day you woke up and kept lying, you meant." The bartender started clearing glasses. People began shifting away like they were worried betrayal was contagious. I turned to Sam. "Give me the ring," I said. He handed it over wordlessly. I looked at Kelsey one last time, then at Michael. "Here," I said, pressing the velvet box into his palm. "Congratulations on your continued commitment to whatever the hell this is. Looks like you both still have a lot to work out." Michael looked stunned. Kelsey reached for me, but I stepped back. No more lies. No more almost truths. No more pretending. And then I walked out. Past the string lights. Past the confused DJ. Past my mom with her hand over her mouth. Down the elevator. Out into the night air. My chest hurt like I'd been running. And maybe I had. For years. From the gut feeling that something wasn't right. But the truth finally caught me. And I wasn't done yet. Because what came next wasn't heartbreak. It was curiosity. And what I was about to find out next would make the ring look like the least expensive thing I lost. The first 24 hours after the party were a blur. I crashed on Sam's couch, still half in my dress shirt, shoes by the door, my phone blowing up like a slot machine jackpot I didn't want. Kelsey texted. Then called. Then texted again. Her name popped up so many times I had to switch my phone to airplane mode just to sleep. Even then, I dreamed about her. Not kissing her or missing her, arguing with her. In the frozen food aisle. At our dog's vet appointment. In front of a judge. When I finally turned my phone back on the next morning, I had 14 missed calls, a wall of texts, and 2 voicemails that started with, "Please just listen." I didn't. Instead, I sat with a cup of Sam's god-awful instant coffee and opened my laptop. I'm not proud of this next part, but you have to understand, I had questions. Big ones. And if I couldn't get the truth from her, I was going to find it another way. So I started digging. I work in IT. Cybersecurity, mostly. You know what that means? It means I've cleaned up after people who left their digital footprints all over someone else's life. People who thought delete meant disappear. Kelsey wasn't sloppy exactly, she was just used to me not asking questions. In under an hour, I had access to her old cloud backups. Not because I hacked anything, because we shared a photo album, a Dropbox account, and a couple of Google Docs we used for trip planning. And there it was. A folder titled House 2021. Inside? Real estate listings. Budget spreadsheets. Email threads with her and Michael. Back when we'd only been dating a year. They weren't just talking. They were planning. A future. Their future. While I was buying throw pillows and planning date nights, she was vetting school districts with her legal husband. One email from Michael read, "We'll list it under my name. Jake won't ask questions. He trusts you." Another from Kelsey, "If this works, we're set. He's never going to know. I promise." I sat there in Sam's apartment, sick to my stomach. But it wasn't until I scrolled down to the shared bank statements that the floor really dropped. There was a second account. One I didn't know about. And my paychecks, my direct deposits, had been quietly rerouted for 6 months. The account number was off by just a few digits. The routing number was the same. And since the money still moved, I didn't notice. I paid bills, I bought groceries, I covered rent. But the direct deposit slip I thought I was checking? A PDF Kelsey had helped me set up. Faked. She had it all. Every dollar I'd earned since December. 12 grand. Gone. I felt something behind my eyes get hot and blurry, and for a minute, I thought I might actually cry. Not over the money. Not over the betrayal. Over the audacity. She played me like a second job. I closed the laptop and called my bank. They took it seriously, said it looked like internal fraud. Corporate HR got involved. Payroll issued a stop payment. But the money? Most of it had already been moved. Gone. Or sitting in accounts I couldn't touch. Then I called the only other person who might know the full story. Michael. He didn't answer, of course. But I left a voicemail that said, "If I don't hear from you in 24 hours, I'm going to the police. Hope your marriage license holds up in court." An hour later, he called me back. "Jake," he said, "let's just talk." I told him I wasn't interested in talking. I wanted facts. So he gave them to me. And if I thought the engagement party was the explosion, this was the crater afterward. Turns out, Kelsey and Michael never filed for legal separation. They'd had a rocky marriage, sure. Counseling. Trials, separations. But it was never over. Not officially. Not on paper. Which meant the house she and I shared? Technically half his. The furniture? His name was on the receipt. The rescue dog? Registered under his name. He knew about me the whole time. Kelsey had convinced him this thing between us was just a distraction. Something she needed to get her head right. A placeholder. And somehow, in the twisted calculus of their broken relationship, he agreed to go along with it, as long as she didn't marry me. I asked him flat out, "Why the hell would you agree to that?" He paused for a long time. Then said, "Because I thought if she could play house with someone else and still come back to me, maybe it meant she'd never really left." I hung up. There wasn't a word in the dictionary for the mix of pity and rage I felt in that moment. I called Sam. Told him everything. And my brother, bless him, said 6 words I'll never forget. "Okay. So what's our next move?" "Not your next move. Our." We started with a lawyer. I filed a fraud report. Flagged my credit. Pulled everything I could find, emails, transfers, screenshots, the works. Sam compiled a timeline. I filed a police report, not because I thought she'd go to jail, but because I needed it documented. I wasn't just some fool who got his heart broken. I was a victim of digital theft, financial abuse, identity misuse. And if she wanted to pretend it was just a relationship gone sour, she was about to learn what it looked like when the man she underestimated came back with receipts. Literal ones. The next day, I got a text from her. Just 5 words. "Can we please talk privately?" I stared at it. Then typed back, "Sure. My lawyer will set the time." The lawyer's office sat on the 3rd floor of a building that used to be a bank. High ceilings, long shadows, furniture that looked like it hadn't moved since the Reagan administration. There was even a grandfather clock in the corner, ticking like it knew secrets. I showed up early, wearing a button-down shirt that still smelled like Sam's dryer sheets and a face I couldn't quite remember making before all this. Calm, but carved out. Like I'd emptied something inside me to make space for what came next. Kelsey was late. Of course she was. When she finally arrived, she looked tired in that curated way, minimal makeup, hair pulled back like she was performing humility. She wore the same coat she had on at the engagement party. I don't know why that detail stuck with me, but it did. She wouldn't meet my eyes. My lawyer, Meredith Klein, mid-40s, no nonsense, wedding ring off, sleeves rolled up, stood and shook Kelsey's hand like she was dealing with a disappointed vendor. "We're here to clarify facts," Meredith said, her voice clipped. "This isn't a personal mediation. Mr. Mercer has documentation that suggests your actions resulted in identity misrepresentation and unauthorized access to funds. We're here to give you an opportunity to respond, before we escalate." Kelsey blinked like she didn't quite understand the language. She looked at me, like maybe I'd translated into the soft boy tone I used to use on weekends when she was hungover or moody or just plain mean. I didn't say a word. "I didn't steal from him," she said finally, voice small. "No." Meredith pulled out the printouts. "You redirected his direct deposit to a joint account he didn't authorize, accessed his payroll login, and opened credit accounts using personal information obtained under the pretense of cohabitation. That's 3 separate violations under state law." Kelsey's mouth opened. Closed. "I was paying bills with it," she said. "I wasn't shopping or taking vacations." "That doesn't matter," Meredith said, flipping to the next page. "Intent doesn't erase fraud." That shut her up for a moment. Then came the tears. "I just needed time," she said, voice wobbling. "I didn't know how to leave him. And Jake. Jake was easy. He was kind. He didn't ask for anything." Those last 2 lines hit me like a slap. Not because they weren't true. Because they were. "I was convenient," I said flatly. She looked at me then, really looked. Her face twisted in that way people get when they realize the version of you they've been talking down to has finally stood up. "You don't understand," she whispered. "No," I said. "You don't. You thought I'd just take it. Like I always did. Like I'd smile and keep paying while you sorted through your messy, unfinished business. But I'm done being the buffer. You wanted to talk privately? This is the only privacy I'll give you. After this, it's court or charges. Your choice." She reached across the table, but Meredith moved faster, slid a folder between us. "These are the restitution terms," she said. "You pay back what was taken, revoke all access to his information, and sign a statement acknowledging misconduct. You do that, and Jake agrees not to press formal charges." Kelsey blinked. "What if I can't pay it back?" "Then I hope you enjoy community service and a frozen credit score," Meredith said coolly. "Because we have everything we need." Kelsey swallowed hard, looked down at the folder, and nodded. "I'll need a few days." "You have 48 hours," Meredith replied. The meeting ended. Kelsey walked out without another word. I stayed in the chair for a long time after, staring at the spot where she'd been sitting. Not because I missed her. Because it finally felt real. "I can't believe you stayed this calm," Meredith said, packing her things. I looked at her. "I can't believe it took me this long." On the way out, I got a text. From Michael. "You did what I should have. Thank you." I didn't reply. That night, I didn't go back to Sam's. I went home. To our apartment. Well, my apartment now. She'd moved out. Cleared her things out during the meeting, probably. Took her shoes, her makeup, her half of the bookshelf. But she left the French press, the dog bed, and a box labeled Jake's stuff. That held, of all things, the original direct deposit forms she forged. I laughed when I saw them. The audacity, even in retreat. I poured myself a drink. Bourbon. Neat. Sat on the couch with the dog curled next to me and stared at the blank TV screen for a long time. And then I opened my email. Subject line. "You have a match." I almost deleted it. Almost. But something stopped me. Not because I was ready to date. Because I was ready to live. For me. I clicked it open. Not because I was searching. Because I wasn't hiding anymore. I didn't message the match. Not right away. It wasn't that I wasn't curious. She looked nice enough. Her name was Elise, she worked in event design, had a dog named Scout, and listed board game assassin as one of her hobbies. There was a warmth in her eyes that felt different. Less filtered. Like she actually lived in the pictures she posted instead of just posing for them. But I wasn't ready, not in the Hallmark movie kind of way. Not in the one door closes, another opens sense. I was just learning how to sit in a room by myself and not feel like I owed anyone an explanation for it. That was the first gift. Freedom, as quiet as a cup of coffee you made only for yourself. I got the official restitution paperwork from Kelsey 3 days later. Wire confirmation for half the money. A signed agreement to pay the rest in monthly installments. A formal apology, too, typed, lawyer-reviewed, and as emotionally vacant as a cancelled magazine subscription. I didn't need it. I didn't need her to cry. I didn't need her to beg. I didn't need closure from someone who used the word kind as a synonym for convenient. Instead, I changed every password. I froze my credit. I closed the joint account and opened one in a bank she never knew I had. I finally paid off the last of her Amazon tab just so I could delete the damn login. And then, one Friday morning, I took the day off work. Walked downtown. Bought a vinyl record player because I always wanted one and never felt like I could justify it. Picked up a used copy of Rumors by Fleetwood Mac. Brought it home. Dropped the needle. It was the most satisfying scratch of sound I'd ever heard. The dog barked once, curled at my feet. I poured a cup of coffee and sat on the floor like I was 20 again. Like I had just moved into my first apartment with hand-me-down furniture and too many dreams. Only now I knew better. I knew that love doesn't mean silence. That peace doesn't mean pretending. That being generous should never come with a slow leak in your own self-worth. Later that week, I messaged Elise. We met for lunch. Laughed. Talked about things that had nothing to do with pain. It was nice. Not electric. Not some movie moment. Just kind. Real kind. The kind I could believe in. I don't know what happens next. And for once, I'm okay not knowing. What I do know is this. I'm no longer the placeholder in someone else's chaos. I'm not the guy they lean on until they find their way back to the person who hurt them more. I'm Jake. 32. Single. Still a little bruised. But fully awake. And if anyone's listening out there, maybe you just found out the person you love isn't who you thought they were. Maybe you're picking up the pieces after a long, slow betrayal. Just know this. You're not broken. You're building. Keep going. And if you need a place to start, pour a coffee. Change your passwords. And for God's sake, check your direct deposit.